Okay, so the title of my speech again is The Importance of Reevaluation and Constructive Feedback. Little information for you. I've actually given this speech before. The first time was in May of 2015, actually May 5th, 2015, 2 days before my, let me do the math, 38th birthday. In a business management class, the very first business class I ever took, and it was called 21st Century Workplace Skills. In that class, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about myself, which was surprising. I was expecting something a lot more businessy, but we really did a lot of assessments. I completed assessments on my communication style. I completed assessments on my leadership style, conflict resolution, my learning style, my values. I had to create a mission statement. Tons of things that I'd never done before that helped give me insight into me. At the culmination of that project, you have that in front of you. I had to give my final. You can turn that over now. And it was my SWOT presentation. And I have this up here so I can go over that with you. Now, a SWOT is another form of evaluation. And of course, it's an acronym for different things. So the S stands for strengths. And the W stands for, you may all be able to guess it, weakness. The O stands for opportunities. And the T stands for threats. Now, at that time, in May of 2015, I was just granted my divorce that February. It had been a 3-year process. So, needless to say, I was very relieved and also very drained. So this class really came as a welcome surprise and a nice way for me to get my mind off of things. At the time, I was also going through counseling. And one of the things that my therapist told me, and it ended up being the strength that I used in 2015, is that I was very good at self-care. So that was my 2015 strength that I shared with the class, self-care. I figured out that my weakness at the time was conflict resolution, which was pretty ironic. My opportunity at the time was my adaptability and flexibility. Even though I was going through a lot of change, I wasn't afraid. And last but not least, my threat, which actually tied into my conflict resolution weakness, which was avoidance. And that's where this handout comes in. I avoided conflict like the plague. I did not like getting into confrontations. I did not like being mean. Nothing like that. So my therapist gave me an assignment. Find something to focus on. Find something that would give you strength and give you guidance while you are working on these things, and that's what this was. So I, at the time, was reading a book called Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And pretty much every quote in here is something from her. And you can take a moment, I'm going to say 30 seconds or so, maybe 20. Look through, find a quote that speaks to you. You're not going to read it out loud or anything. And then I will share the one that spoke to me in 2015. time's up. So for me, the quote that spoke most to me then, the one that I felt that I was nowhere near completing, was on page 4, in the middle of the page. How does one know if she has forgiven? You tend to feel sorrow over the circumstance instead of rage. You tend to feel sorry for the person rather than angry with him. You tend to have nothing left to say about it all. Well, I'm happy to report that in 2018, completely over that whole divorce thing. Mostly I laugh about it now because I think about the things that really had me upset and really had me worried, and they're distant memories. It was a really good thing for me to stumble across this presentation that I did back in May of 2015, because at that time it was very difficult for me to stand up and share this part of myself with an entire class full of basically strangers. But now I can read that quote today and I feel nothing. I don't necessarily even feel sorrow. There's just a bit of irony to me, because this is no longer a weakness. Conflict resolution is not a problem for me. I will say anything to anyone very nicely. I am still very flexible and adaptable, so that stayed the same. I'm also very good at self-care. When I leave work, I leave work. I don't worry, even if there's a bunch of stuff on my desk. I know it will get taken care of. And I also don't avoid things anymore. I would say now the biggest threat is probably in 2018. It's actually, I don't know, somewhere overzealous. Sometimes I'm just so excited about things, and they're not necessarily going to all pan out, but I'd rather have that as a threat than avoiding things. So in conclusion, it is very important to go back, reevaluate, take a look at the feedback that you've received, that you have given yourself, the goals that you've given yourself, and give yourself some credit for where you are compared to where you have been. Thank you.
In a speech, a formal speech. And both times, you're always trying to teach us something. And that's really cool. I really enjoy that. With your icebreaker, you told us about patience and persistence. And today, you gave us a little snippet of what else you've been going through or had gone through. And it's very interesting. I appreciate the content. I appreciate the handout, especially the quotes. The quotes are really nice as well. In my understanding, this particular segment from Pathways, you were to concentrate on voice. All right? You have a lovely voice. It's very soothing. You can almost describe it as velvet. Very relaxing. But when you're giving a speech, you need to keep us on our toes. You need to keep us awake, and we want to see some action with that voice of yours. My goodness gracious. You are similar to me, where we have monotone voice, right? So you need to work on that big time, because your words are great. Your speeches are nice. But you gotta work on your voice, woman, because you gotta be heard. And we want to hear you in a really nice range of voice. I know it's in there, even though you want to be nice. Right? What's that singer? I just heard her song on the radio. What's love got to do with it? Tina Turner. Huh?
Oh,
You got to be nice and rough with that voice of yours, right? Because even Tina Turner sings about that. So the next speech you give us, which I know you're going to teach us something, and I know it's going to be great content, give us that voice. Wake us up. Help us pay attention. and you'll be on your road to being a motivational speaker. Because being a motivational speaker, you need all kinds of things to keep people entertained, right? And the voice is one of the most important things that you have. So thank you for a great speech again. Looking forward to more.